Chris talked last week, and a few things he said I thought were really good, and he talked about just, hey, what's going to happen? The thing is, we basically said the people who are around are staying around. That's good, including me, right? And so we are now no longer a senior pastor-led church. For over the last year, you didn't maybe notice it probably because it got better, but I wasn't leading the church. We were leading together as a team and the pastoral council, and so some of these things will change. But those people are still going to be around, so you still can go to those people you have relationships with if you're having to process something, you have a need or whatever. And we also talked about this amazing staff that we have, which is quite amazing. And so our staff, just if you talk to one of them, you can connect to all of them. It's just this place you have a relationship, you have a question in their area that you might know they're a part of. But how many of you here have asked me a question? I really want you to think about this. And my response at one time has been, I don't know, you need to call the office. Raise your hand. Pretty much everybody, right? So because I usually don't know, but because I realize that Devonna is the person who just knows these things, and she knows how to connect. And where's Devonna here, actually? There she is. She is amazing. I get choked up when I think about Devonna, what she does. And so Devonna, when you see that vineyard office, that is Devonna. You can't read it that way, but that's what it is. It goes right to her. It's a personal, so you can be private about what you say, and you can have trust in what you say to Devonna. She fills all kinds of questions. The trees down in the parking lot to, I have a spiritual need. Where should I go? I want to figure out how to get connected to Waymakers. I'm stuck on this situation on VCC Life, and what about this? And everything you can possibly imagine to how can you fix my car in the parking lot. She knows where to go. So I say that because if you have the relationships, connect those relationships. But maybe you're new and you say, I'm not sure where to go. Just call the office. And Devonna she's amazing. She will do it. So, by the way, Donna, since this is such a special Sunday, I can do whatever I want. You're amazing. Thank you. Yeah. So. And any of those people there, you may not want to call Amy. Amy does amazing things in her books. If you want to know why we are doing so well in things, because she works for the board, works on the financials, but she's in Florida. I'm not going to give you her number. Sorry. But anyway. So we have a great staff. So make sure you have any questions. You know that's still wide open to you. So the other thing I'd say is Chris described what was going to happen to me last week this way. And what's going to happen to David, I don't know exactly, but it will be basically this. And then and I don't know exactly what he's going to do, but I think his new role will be this. He does whatever he wants. So, actually, that's kind of true, a little bit. And as I think about that, that actually has some truth in it. But you know what's interesting about this time, and I just want to get real with kind of catching you up on where I am on things, is you're in a weird space when you retire, because I've had a job description for 28 years that helped me discern what my part was supposed to be. And I now have to discern what my part should be without a job description. That's a little new space for me, right? So I have been praying a lot about what's happening in that. And it's interesting with me, it's like I really have found that what God is emphasizing with me and trying to figure out what am I supposed to be doing next in this next season, it's not like responsibility and role so much. He starts with my desire. So here's the conversation, what would you like to do, David? That's where it's starting. And I think, you tell me what to do. No, what would you like to do, David? So that's been pretty much it. So I don't know exactly how it will play out completely. And so I know that it will probably feel different after a period of time. I have enough pastors who have told me that you think you know, but then you go a little further into you don't know quite as much as you think you know, because you've been doing this for 28 years and you don't know till you're away from it for a little bit. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you in on the rough draft. understanding that it could shift a little bit. But so you're my friends. I want to let you in on where we're at. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to do it by the questions I'm already asked all the time. And I'm going to answer them a little bit longer than I do when you ask me. The questions that I get asked all the time is, are you excited about your retirement? Will you continue to be involved in church? How do you feel about the transition? And as I looked at that, I think those are great questions. But I think there's another question that I think is important to answer that you may not ask as much because it's already been decided. And that question is this: why are you retiring? And so I want to make sure that's clear on why we're retiring. So what I mean by that, as far as because there's lots of definitions. So when you say retire, it has all kinds of different definitions going on. By the way, Devonna, this is amazing. This is the first time I've actually been cold in our church. Is anybody cold? Okay, we'll go up a notch. See, Devonna right there. She knows exactly what to do. I just throw it out there, and all of a sudden, we'll just be, David, your every need. What do you need? That's what she always says to me, David, what do you need? No, she does not. All right. So, anyway, so understanding that is what I mean by retiring is important to get definitions, because if you look at the original origin of retire is really to withdraw to safety and seclusion. That is not what I'm doing. Another one is to leave one's job and to cease to work. And that is not what I'm doing. And here's another one. This is the American. Disengage from work and pursue pleasure. I'm doing that, but in a good way. Hopefully God pleasure, not just self-pleasure. Now, on the 31st, I'm going to retire from the role of full-time paid staff, the role of lead pastor. I'll be stepping down from pastoral council, teaching and planning team, and I will no longer attend staff meetings, which makes me sad. But they'll bring me in once in a while just to make me feel good. And I will probably not attend meetings unless God says attend the meeting, and I will. So that's kind of what it'll look like. But you have to understand that biblically, I don't really believe in any of those versions of retirement. I just continue to work, and I'm called to seek the kingdom of God above all else. I'm called to love God and love others and keep increasing in that and stay on mission. I'm called to remain a minister. I am fully a part of the body of Christ, and fortunately, it gets to be this one, and I am fully engaged and committed to this church. That all remains the same. I'm still connected to Jesus and all of you, and I will continue to be connected to Jesus and all of you. And I will remain a pastor, because it's a calling, it's not a role, it's what I'm made to do. But I'll be doing it in different ways. So that is in the context of retiring, but then why are you retiring? Let me give you down that. You know how it is with Christians. Well, God told me. Well, I want to go a little deeper than that, right? So help you understand how I got to that place of retiring. And basically, back, quite a ways, back in 2018, I think, Debbie and I just knew that we would be, I don't know how you describe that, we just, in our hearts, we felt this peace about in 5 to 7 years, something like that. We actually said those words, it should be turned over to whoever's younger. That's about all we had. Younger leaders, that's what we felt. And we just had a real peace about it, but we didn't have any idea what that looked like. And here's what I want you to make sure you're really clear on, because I've seen a lot of spins on this in the church. I am not retiring because I'm tired or exhausted. I am not tired because I've had too many hurts and I need to retreat and go to solitude. That is not why I'm retiring. I'm not retiring because I don't love the church as much and I'm getting kind of sick of you guys. No, I'd say actually the absolute opposite in all those areas. I honestly can say I feel more alive to Jesus than I ever in my life. and I feel more loving towards God and leadership and everybody in this church than I ever have in my life. I can say it with all honesty. And, but the bottom line is that Debbie and I, it wasn't just me, both felt that this is where God was taking us, and we've taken it step by step as it's unfolded. It's John 5, the verse we always talk about. We're to see what God's doing and not fight it, but participate and yield to it. And that's what I feel like God's asking us to do. I've never wanted to stop using my gifts. I've never wanted to stop pastoring. Or I've never wanted to stop operating in my gifts. I feel that's not optional till the day I die, and then I get to fully operate in all those things, right? There are a few other factors that are part of our process of deciding this, is that we could. we could eat and we could stay in the house. Okay, and I got a car. Okay, something like this. We could do it. We also realized we're losing capacity, and you need to pay attention to those things. Like, don't have the capacity anymore as much as you have. And I think the other is, I think a big one is I started realizing I have lots of energy in certain areas, but not other energy in other areas. And I realized that God was giving me desires that were beyond this for later, right? And I realized to do the things I feel like some pulling towards a way of ministering that's coming forward and being the lead pastor, it would not, with losing capacity, was not going to work. So those are all the factors in that. But the bottom line is we feel like we both felt a real peace about it. And then God has been, like he does in our church, solely revealing how that all works out. All right. So, next question. Did I answer that okay? A or B or C? What do you think? A, B, or C? Great on that one, that part. Oh, of course you have to say that because it's my last name. No matter what I say, A is great, yeah. Okay, so are you excited about your retirement? Yes. I just stopped. No, yes, that's what it is. I think I'd say it's like this. The way I've described it in a more emotional way is in the big term, I'm super excited about it, but in the short term, it's like 18 days away, right? So 18 days, I'm thinking, it's like you're going on a trip that you kind of know. You've looked at the brochures a little bit. You've talked to people who've been there, hadn't quite got there. It seems exciting. You're not sure, but do you have everything ready? That's what I'm feeling, right? So I'm not like super calm all the time, but I'm not freaked out. I'm like, hey, this is exciting. We'll see what happens. So the adventure is coming. That's how I'm feeling. Okay, how about this? Will you continue to be involved in the church? Yes. All right. That's it. That will change though is, and again, I've had people say, in 6 months you'll know more of what that means and how that will look. So I'm just going to give you what I best at now. So if you notice all these disclaimers, so I can do what I want, right, Chris? So I think how it will be changed is I feel committed to spend more time with Debbie and my girls and my grandkids, right? So that's going to take some time. I'm going to work on how to be a friend and not a pastor. Friend, just a friend. Don't know what that means yet. That's why I can't describe it. All right. I'm just letting you know everything. I'll have less time to meet with people, and my meetings will be based relationally more than out of any role, right? Pretty much all relationally. I'm not going to be going to strategic team meetings. As I told you, I won't be on pastoral council. I won't go into staff meetings. But I will not, this is more testimony here and kind of declaring it. I will not be asking Devonna to help me with stuff. This is the harder part of the teaching, the talk. The things I'm so bad at, and here's one of the hardest ones. I will try, because I can't confit things. I will not point out everything that's wrong in the building as much, and I will gradually get healed of that and eventually not saying anything about that. This is a tough one. I will communicate to you raw without it going through Emily McCall. So you'll have to learn how to read those things. And it requires lots of supernatural discernment of trying to figure out my text. All right. I will likely teach some, but it won't be as often. This year I have to take 25%. I don't know what it'll be. We'll see. As a pastor, I will continue just to minister. My favorite Sundays for this last year is I walk in and I have nothing other than being present on my chart, and I can just hang out, and I love it. So I'm just going to keep doing that. All right. My highest priority as a pastor is to pray and support and to recruit others to pray and support for the leaders. Right? Next, how do you feel about the transition? That question, it means different things to different people. So what that means for us is like, how do you feel about leaving this role that you've had for 28 years? That's what some of that means. The other is, how do you feel this new approach towards the church in the transition is going to go, and how's the future going to look? How do you feel about that, really, David? Yeah. And so I would start with the first is, how do I feel about this process of transitioning from the role of senior pastor into just pastor that runs around and does what he wants? All right. I am so grateful. That's how I feel. Can't tell you how grateful I am. Because I get to remain a part of this family. And man, retirement without this family would be a real bummer, quite honestly. I would act like it wouldn't be if I had to do that for the sake of the church, but it would be a whole different process, right? So I'm very grateful. I'm so grateful, which sometimes this changes, that our church still is living according to the values it was called to from the beginning, which I didn't know would happen. And the vision from the vision, it hasn't changed, and I get to still be a part of that. And it's still guiding us. I'm an area leader in the vineyard. I realize I've been an area leader. I've been pastoring church for 28 years. I've been an area leader for 24, 25 years of the 28 years. So I've watched lots of churches go through lots of things. I'm old, so all my friends are old, and they're all pastors, and they're all retiring. So I have more people telling me about their transitions than you can imagine. So with those two connections, I've just seen a lot, and it is pretty difficult in most cases. It's really hard on the church. It's really hard on the senior pastor. Somehow God is faithful and gets through it, but it can be rough. I'm just honest, it's just rough. Lots of people leave because they don't like the expert. It's just, most pastors can't function in their church. They have to hide, or it's just, even in the best case scenarios, it's hard. So I'm not minimizing that. I think there's loss in any transition, and there's hope in every transition, right? I just hope we go through it with lots of good grieving and lots of excitement for the future. That's what I think we should be doing. But at the same time, when they ask you about this place of like, what do you feel? How do you feel about this transition? I just feel peaceful about it. I feel the best way to describe it is I feel great for myself, but for the church itself, I have a lot of expectation, way more than I share on upfront, because I can see how this new approach that we're moving towards is going to release more people to participate. It doesn't look like that now, but it'll be a place that I will see, a place that everybody can be an equal, very important part of this church. Whether you're a leader or not a leader, if you're here, that you can become a part of it. To me, that is the spot that I get the most excited about it. And I feel so good about the transition. Now, here's the thing: is I'm working with David Hughes and this consultant, and I also go to him because he's a pastor. I get counsel from him and saying, "Are you okay, Dave?" We work through all the stuff. He's a former pastor who's turned his church over, and he's kind of a sage, and he's amazing. And so he helps me a lot. But he will always say to me, "I've never seen somebody who is able to let go of their position quite like this." And I never feel like, "Oh, yeah, I'm pretty spiritual, aren't I, David?" I always feel like, "You don't know me, do you?" The only reason that I feel so peaceful and excited is I know all the leadership and I completely trust my life to them. And I want them to lead the church, and it's pretty easy. But it's not because I'm spiritual. It's because God set it up because he knows me and how insecure I am that I needed that, right? So that's encouraging. I also know, I'm telling you what, God is way more faithful than we are. We can bang it up pretty good. And I tell you what, if you go down and see some of my choices as a senior pastor, I guarantee you God is more faithful. He just makes it work. I always call myself the Mr. Magoo of pastoring, and somehow he kind of makes it work because he loves this group of people more than we love each other and love the church. And so it will work. That's why I don't feel too bad. I've seen him be faithful for all these years. He seems to be continuing to do that. And that gives me great peace. But I think the thing I'm the most excited about is this place of what it could look like. And I think it could look like that faster than I think, but I'm thinking in my mind 1 to 2 years of what might happen. And I know that's going out there ways. But I think of it because I just know the process is pretty deep of what God's doing right now. But what I love the most in a church is when I see, you remember the vision I had before this all started, way back when we were outside. I'll just repeat it again if you weren't here. The vision I had, which a vision is a big word, but I think I would categorize this in that, which I would say I have about 3 or 4 in my lifetime. We were out in the parking lot with all of you guys and more people, just, everybody who's ever watching online and vacation, they're all outside, the whole gang. And the church was crumbling and smoking, and the bricks were all down right here. And then we had no place to go. It was on Sunday morning. And then a guy comes in and says, "You don't own this building." And we realized something was mixed up in the paperwork in this dream. And so I'm elevated like this, right? This. And then I feel like God says, "David, what do you have?" Like, what do you have? Pay attention to that one right there. I tell you what. So. I'll take that as a sign. All right, so, and what I knew instantly he meant by that was the way you find out how you're discipling people is you pull everything away. And if that group of people can't function as a church, you haven't discipled as well as God wants you to. I'm not saying we're perfect. I'm just saying it didn't feel condemning. It felt exciting. And I just know whatever's going on in what God's doing in us now, it's heading towards that. And I can see in the next few years it being a spot in which that is happening. It's not just building slots and filling in. It's that internally people are really learning how to live this way, and they're growing in dependency and they're with God and interdependency with one another. And all of a sudden things happen that you just don't imagine because they're listening to the head of the body. And yet, they're doing it not alone as individuals, but connected. So, that's what my answers are.